Alright, so the story behind today's dish is I'm a teacher during the day in the outside world. And the school that I work at every couple weeks gives away these big food boxes for the parents, families, teachers, and staff to take home. And in one of the more recent food boxes, I was given like pounds and pounds of this really terrible chicken. You'll see a little further in the video, but just disgusting drumsticks. And so I've been on a journey to try and figure out the most palatable way to eat these drumsticks. I've tried air frying them into chicken wings. I've tried making them into jerk chicken. The most successful thing thus far has been chicken and rice, which isn't bad, but we've got a lot of this chicken. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. So I don't know how many more times I can eat chicken and rice. We're going to try something a little bit different today, and I am going to make a chicken pot pie, which admittedly I've never made before, and the whole thing's going to be from scratch, so we'll see how it goes. Our first step though is going to be to make a dough. Alright, all we're going to need for our dough is chilled butter, ice water, and flour. We're just going to throw all of these into our stand mixer and try to make sure that all of our ingredients stay as cold as possible, especially the butter. The reason for this is we don't want the butter to fully incorporate into the flour. That's what's going to give us that flaky crust when the butter does finally melt and makes those layers. And this is what the baddies on Bake Off call a rough puff, because it's really the lazy way to make dough. We're not rolling out sheets of butter and folding it into the dough meticulously over hours and hours. We're doing it the lazy, fast way. Here's me deciding that the dough is too wet, so I'm going to throw it back into the stand mixer and sprinkle a little bit of flour over the top, just to try and firm it up, dry it up a little bit. Still trying not to overwork the dough, which I've almost certainly done at this point. When I decide that it's the consistency I like, I make 2 separate discs, wrap those in saran wrap, and then we're going to put them into the fridge to chill for at least half an hour. Ideally, you would do this overnight, but we ain't got time for that. So in the fridge, half an hour, boom. Alright, next thing we want to do is clean our chicken. Here you can see these nasty drumsticks, oversized, pumped full of antibiotics, whatever that gross yellow stuff on the tip is, who knows. After I clean the first 2, I decide that I'm going to peel the skin off. It's really not serving me, and in the past when I've cooked the skin, it just hasn't gotten to a desirable texture. So I'm going to peel it off so it's not in our filling, and then do it with all the rest of them. If you know what that gross yellow bit is at the bottom, leave a comment, let us know. Our filling is going to be those cleaned, de-skinned drumsticks, some baby carrots, a yellow onion, our cabbage, some almond milk, because we don't mess with dairy in this house, 2 cloves of garlic, some dried thyme, and some dried parsley. Okay, our chicken is covered, and we're going to pop that in the oven at 375 until it's done. Chicken is ready. It's out of the oven. It's cooling off. One thing that I'm really big on is trying to use every part of an ingredient when I can, and this recipe calls for 2 cups of chicken stock. Well, I don't have chicken stock, but we do have a bunch of chicken bones, so as I shred the chicken, I'm going to cut the meat off, put that in a separate bowl, and then I'm going to take the bones, put them in a pot with some water, and just cook that down until it becomes its own homemade chicken stock. Now that my chicken is cool enough to cut, I'm going to start pulling that meat off the bone, a little bit at a time, and then once there's enough meat off the bone, I'll throw that bone into the pot of stock as promised. There it is. And the meat will get thrown into the filling along with some shredded cabbage, our diced yellow onion, and our minced garlic, some cut baby carrots, our homemade chicken stock, some flour to thicken, and our almond milk. And now we're ready to start preparing our filling. So you're going to throw a knob of butter into the pan, making sure to pull all the paper off the butter first, unless you're a professional like me. Then you're going to put your onions into the pan, making sure that you don't put the garlic in there with it. The onion is going to take longer to cook than the garlic, and the garlic will burn if we put it in with the onion. So make sure those stay separate. Then your carrots and your cabbage can go in as well. And you're just going to want to cook that down in the butter until it kind of starts to soften. The onion should get kind of translucent. Once that happens, you can throw your garlic in and continue cooking that down. Then after a while, you're going to sprinkle your flour in. Make sure that the flour coats all of the cooked veg that you've got in the pan. And then you're going to start pouring in your almond milk. And as this simmers, you're going to see it start to thicken up. So throw all your almond milk into the pan. Mix that around a little bit, make sure it's all fully incorporated. After a while, you're going to put your chicken stock into the pan with the almond milk. Mix that around and let that simmer for a while. And after a while, that should be a nice, thick, creamy sauce. Of course, if you use whole milk or heavy cream, it's going to be a lot thicker and creamier. But like I said, no dairy allowed in this house, so almond milk it is. At this point, you can season. I'm going in with some salt, some pepper, and then those dried herbs that you saw. The thyme, as well as the parsley, are going to go in there. And as an added bonus, I have cut some fresh rosemary straight out of my own herb garden. And extra fancy, I'm using my herb shears to just snip that in there. Then we're going to taste, always taste. And when I decided it's seasoned enough, I went ahead and threw my chicken in there and started fully incorporating that into the sauce as well. Should be pretty thick. While our filling is cooling down, we're going to go ahead and roll out our dough and get it ready to fill the pie. So first step is going to be to flour the surface so that the dough doesn't stick to the countertop while you're rolling it out. And yes, I disinfected the counter. Don't panic. You're going to roll this out until it's about a 1/4 inch thick. I completely made that up. That's just a guess. I don't know. I can't tell you really. Just follow your heart until it feels like it's the right thickness. And then pick it up and put it in your pie pan. Then I gently worked this down into the base of the pan until it was snug against the edges and really just took the shape of a pie and started scooping my filling in. I probably should have waited for this to cool a little bit more, but like I said, I don't have time for that. So scooping it into the pan, making sure it's nice and even, moving that out of the way so that we can roll out the dough for the top of our pie. Did the exact same thing with this one, floured my surface, smacked the living hell out of the dough, rolled it out until it was mystery thickness. It just felt right, I don't know, and then put it over top the pie. Stretched that out and kind of tried to roll over the top so that it would seal it, and then decided that wasn't a great method, so I just kind of cut the excess off and then rolled it under and pinched it with my fingers, and this ended up working a lot better. Then I take my knife and cut a few slits in the top of the pie. This will allow steam to escape the pie while it's cooking so that the top stays nice and crisp. Alright, here comes the money shot, getting a nice wedge cut out of our pie. It's ooey, it's gooey, it's comforting. Bam, there she is. Yes, it's a mess. Yes, it's delicious.